How much of the food in your house is for you and how much of it is it for other people? Do you ever find that the food that's in your house for other people is getting in the way of some of your goals? Maybe it's your training goals or your weight loss goals, or your health or fitness goals. So when I was in university, for years I lived with roommates, and in doing so, we split everything up. We split up all our food in the fridge. I had my own shelf in the fridge, so did my roommates. We split our food into our cupboards, and only on the rare occasion did we actually go in together on groceries or share food. It depended on the living situation and what everybody was doing and travel and all of those things. But now it's almost the same situation, whether you have a roommate or a really close roommate called a spouse, or those really kind of sometimes awful roommates who don't clean up after themselves and leave messes in the bathroom and the kitchen and all that, called children. So your roommates, whoever they may be, might be influencing your success when it comes to your food or your eating. So I'm going to give you some tips here that can really make a huge difference in how it's influencing and what to do. I used to, as a coach, as a trainer, as a nutrition consultant, I used to tell people, well, just don't buy the food, then it's not in your house. But sometimes that's not realistic when you've got family members, you've got different people that you interact with and engage with. So I'm going to give you a few tips that might work for you. So you're going to have to put yourself in the scenario that is accurate for you. So here is one of them. The food that we have in our house, if you look at the pantry and some of the things that are in here, I literally think of some of this as my food, or some of it that's just not my food. It's off limits to me. I'll give you an example. In this pantry, there's Vector cereal and there's some chips. I consider this stuff not my food because it's stuff that I don't necessarily want to eat, and it's Vector. Why? The only reason we buy it is for the boys or for my husband. The chips, I'm not typically a chip eater. So if I'm eating that stuff, I consider it not my food, and when that's in my head, then it's just something that has me gear away from going towards those foods. Here's another one. This is my food. I made this nut mix. I buy about 3 different versions of nuts, some salted, some unsalted, usually raw, but then I make that mix and I consider that my food. If we're in the fridge, same type of thing. My husband will make from some of the leftovers my salads, or we'll create some shared food for dinners and things like that. So that's one thing. You can quite literally separate your food, the things that you are going to eat, from your roommates, which might actually be roommates, or they could be those people who are your roommates as well, called your family. And then the second thing is going to be a little bit different. You've got your own food, but if there's other food in the house, you may find yourself going for it. And if that's the case, it may come from a habit. When that habit is ingrained, we have some hormones in our body that are going to train us to keep being triggered or want that particular food, or even be hungry at the same time. So sometimes we need to reset that and cleanse that. That's one of the reasons that I would go for 2 months of the year with no sweets, because I reset that palate. I reset that craving for sweets. Now, if that's the case for you, then maybe you consider not having certain foods in the house, and it might involve enrolling your roommates into this process. That's the harder part. So are they going to give up sweets as well? Are they going to go without cereal, for instance, if cereal is the thing that you go for? So that's tip number 2, is really cleansing your palate. It usually is going to take about 30 days. One of the reasons for that happens to do with your taste buds. You're going to renew those taste buds cells within about 30 days. It takes about 30 days to renew all of those cells and slough off the old ones. So that's the 30 days from the taste buds, but from a habit standpoint, it also gets you out of the habit that you may have been in when it comes to choosing certain foods at certain times. But that's going to take some cooperation with your family members as well. Now, the third thing, and this is likely the most important for most people, and that is the why we're going for it. Are you going into that pantry because you are stressed? Are you going into that refrigerator because you've been working at home and you didn't have proximity to it before. And if that's the case, then that takes something just a little bit different. And what that looks like is recognizing the urge, feeling the feeling that's there instead of acting on whatever you are being triggered by. You might be triggered by boredom. It might be anxiety. It might be just I want to eat something because something tastes good. And once that thought pops in, then you've got this feeling of this craving or this urge that comes up. So if that's the case, sit with how you feel first before acting on it. You don't have to act on the feeling. You can have the urge, you can have the craving, you can have the timing of wanting to eat something and not actually act on it. And in this time when we're working from home more than ever, that's when we typically have to practice that more than ever before. So those are going to be the 3 things that I invite you to look at, especially when you are set with the issue, if it's an issue in your life, of having all kinds of foods that may not be the foods that you want. Quite literally separate it out into your foods. Secondly, take a look at going into your foods and saying, okay, wait a second, maybe I don't need these here. Maybe we're going to remove them and cleanse the palate and reset the palate. Some people have even gone 30 days with just eating potatoes to truly cleanse and reset the palate. And then thirdly, and this is the most important one, really understand why you're going for those things that you may not want. Is it because you have an urge? Is it because you have a craving? And what's the thought that came in prior to that? And remember, you don't have to act on that urge or that craving. And when you have that feeling of boredom, craving, anxiety, you don't have to actually act. You can sit with it and let it be there for a while and maybe take a walk or have a tea or do something just a little bit different to process it. Okay, I hope that serves you with some of the things that you find are in your environment that may not serve your goals and how 3 ways you can actually deal with it.